The paper market is a lie. Silver is heading for 500. When I first saw that comment pop up on my feed, I scoffed. It sounded like the fever dream of a bag holder, a desperate prayer for validation in a stagnant market. But ridicule is a luxury we can no longer afford. Today, January 20th, I sat down with the raw data from the mint, and the COMEX deficiency reports, and the skepticism drained out of me. The numbers the banks are trying to bury tell a terrifying story. What I discovered isn't just a bullish trend, it is a mathematical guillotine waiting to drop. That 500 prediction, it isn't a fantasy, it's the inevitable result of a rigged system colliding with reality. On Tuesday, January 14th, 2026, the financial world shifted on its axis, and the mainstream media barely blinked. Silver shattered the glass ceiling, punching through 92 per ounce. Obliterating the legendary ghost of the 1980 high, less than a week later, it touched 9450. But do not mistake this for a standard rally. This is the opening salvo of the Great Silver Reckoning. We are watching the prelude to a total systemic failure. And the arithmetic of what comes next is undeniable. Here is the secret Wall Street is paying millions to keep hidden. The COMEX exchange in New York, the supposed vault of the world's wealth, is running on fumes. They are down to 82 million ounces of registered silver. That stockpile has hemorrhaged 70% of its volume since 2020, bleeding out week after week. The punchline is brutal. For every single physical ounce actually sitting in those vaults, there are over 300 paper claims floating around the market. Imagine a game of musical chairs played on a minefield, where 300 people are circling a single chair. As long as the music plays, the illusion holds. But the music is stopping. We are staring down the barrel of a crisis involving a metal that is the lifeblood of the modern world. From EV batteries to guided missiles, the US government calls it a strategic critical mineral, yet we price it like it's infinite. Have you tried to source metal lately? The disconnect is violent. The screen price says one thing, but the dealer demands a premium of 30 to 150 is just to let you touch the merchandise. On January 17th, the US Mint finally capitulated, repricing their entire catalog after a year-long freeze. Admitting that the Wine Dine Dude 2% surge since July 2024 is real. They aren't gouging you. They are paying the blood price just to keep the presses running. In the halls of the secret history of currencies, we call this bifurcation. It is the violent divorce of the paper price from the physical reality. We saw previews of this with gold in the 70s and palladium in the early 2000s. But this is a monster of a different breed. The institutions know the dam is breaking, and they have already engaged their escape protocols. Here is the fine print that could ruin you. Cash settlement. When the banks run dry, they have the legal right to hand you depreciating fiat currency instead of the metal you paid for. You bought silver to escape the dollar, yet when the squeeze hits, they will force those worthless dollars back into your hand. In the last 6 months alone, the use of this loophole has skyrocketed 340%. It's already happening. On January 7th, JP Morgan Chase effectively became the sole gatekeeper, issuing 99% of the deliveries for an entire exchange. The very entity notorious for manipulation is now the only thing standing between you and your asset. But if you want to see the future, look east. While New York plays games with paper, Shanghai is draining the physical supply. Buyers in Dubai and China are paying premiums of 50 to 80% above the spot price because they know possession is the law. As of January 1st, 2026, China slammed the door shut, implementing export controls that lock 65% of the world's refined silver inside their borders. The message to the West was clear. Starve, check your brokerage account. That ETF showing to 93. It's a ghost. Try to turn that digital number into a bar of metal, and you will face a week's long delay and a price tag 50 or higher. That spread is the sound of the paper market dying. The institutions have built $1 trillion house of cards on the assumption that nobody would ever ask for the actual metal. But the math is coming for them. If just 1% of paper holders lose faith and demand delivery, the system collapses. If 5% demand it, we are looking at a squeeze that makes 1980 look like a picnic. The whispers in the dark corners of the market are that the giants, Citi, Bank of America, are trapped. They are sitting on short positions that were profitable at 20E, but are lethal at the 94. Suddenly Citi is forecasting 110 silver by mid-year. is. Ask yourself, why would a bank holding massive shorts predict a rally? Because they are desperate to unwind their positions. Before their quarterly reports trigger a regulatory panic, for 169 days straight retail investors have been buying. The little guy is finally on the right side of the trade, but you need to understand the stakes. When you buy an ETF, you are buying a promise. When you buy a coin at 1 at 25, you are buying a geologic fact. These are no longer the same asset class. History teaches us that whenever financial engineering goes to war with geology, the rocks always win. You can print dollars until the ink runs dry. But you cannot print an ounce of silver. The gap between the electronic promise and the atomic reality is widening. Some will cross that bridge and find generational wealth. Others will be left holding a check for a settlement that buys nothing. The only question that matters for your survival is, where will you be standing when the music dies? The smoking gun was found in Shanghai this past December. While the West was distracted by the holidays, the Shanghai Gold Exchange was screaming a warning. Physical silver in China was trading 8,000 higher than the futures in New York. This isn't an arbitrage opportunity, it's a siren. Shanghai is a delivery market. Factories take the metal. New York is a casino. Speculators trade the receipts. When the factory floor price divorces the casino price, the casino is broken. Arbitrage traders hit a brick wall because there is no metal to move. China's new strategic designation of silver means that metal stays in the Middle Kingdom. They aren't treating it like a commodity anymore, they are hoarding it like uranium. This is driven by the solar beast. China's manufacturing sector is devouring 30% of global production. Newer technologies are hungrier, consuming 50% more silver per cell. The cost of silver in a solar panel has jumped from 12% to 17% in 2 years, eclipsing the cost of the silicon itself. Manufacturers are bleeding cash, but they can't stop. Beijing demands energy independence, creating a feedback loop of inelastic demand. They will pay any price because the alternative is darkness. This solar siphon is draining 1,000 metric tons a year. The paper market is garbage. The math says 500 is not just possible, it is the logical conclusion. The emperor has no clothes, the vaults have no silver, and the reckoning is here. The only question left is, do you hold the asset or do you hold the lie?